Hello YouTube, and welcome to my first episode of a new series that I'd like to start, which is basically going to be a guide on Pokemon competitive battling, whether it be on Pokemon Showdown, the battle simulator, which is right here what I have open, which you can see the name, but it's under this subscribe button template, so please subscribe. But whether it's on this Pokemon Showdown battle simulator or on the 3DS itself for just competitive battling with your friends for fun, or playing competitively in tournaments or something like that, I just play it for fun, but other people do enter tournaments, and I think that'd be pretty crazy. But anyways, hopefully that each episode is going to be kind of long, so I'm going to run through each specific section in a new video that I will release every few days. Just depends on how much I can get done and all that stuff. And you're probably watching this video because you're new to competitive battling, or maybe you're just trying to learn some more. So if you're already pretty advanced, this video may probably won't help you because you're advanced, you know the majority of the stuff, but this is definitely a good beginner's guide for somebody who would like to get into it, like myself, who recently, well, not that recently got into it, since I've been a Pokemon fan forever, but I was never really into the competitive side of it. Excuse the burp. So we'll jump right into it. Today's episode is going to be discussing Pokemon stats, EVs, and natures, which is pretty much the most basic and important information that you can learn, and I'll try to make this as informative as possible. So I've got everything written out in front of me right here, just to make sure that I do not forget anything. And on this screen here, if I'm looking over here, this is right here. This is my Pokemon Showdown, so I can show you some examples of things. Okay, so I'm just going to minimize my screen recorder here, and let's jump into this. Okay, so this first episode, stats, EVs, and natures. All Pokemon, they have a base set of stats, which are basically representations of how Pokemon can perform in certain areas. I don't believe the base stat number actually reflect upon the actual number of their final stats, but I could be wrong. But for example, if a Pokemon has 110 base attack, or for example, right here, Bisharp, who has 125 attack, that doesn't necessarily mean that when he's level 100, his attack is going to be 125, sorry, but yes, you can see it's 314, which is at a level 100. So even if he's at level 50, his attack wouldn't be that exact number. So I could be wrong. I'm not sure the math about it, but they're pretty good representations of what you're going to expect from a stat in a Pokemon. So the stats are HP, attack, defense, special attack, special defense, and speed. Each stat is important for its own reasons and relate to how a Pokemon can and will be used. But we'll get into types of battlers and strategies in another video, so be sure to subscribe. It's not only important to know your own stats and to understand what you're capable of, but it's also important to start to learn base stats and all that of different Pokemon that you could run into in your competitive battling, because if you have a knowledge of what your enemy's Pokemon stats are, it'll give you a good strategy that you can make knowing your opponent's stats. So it's always good to learn as many as you can. So it's how each stat works. At first there's HP, which stands for health points or hit points, however you want to say it. Basically, if your hit points reach 0, which are right here, HP, 271 HP. So if that number reaches 0 in a competitive battle, then that Pokemon faints, meaning that the Pokemon can't be used in that battle anymore. And we're not talking about in-game fighting throughout the storyline, but this is competitive battling where you can't use revives and whatnot, so HP is important. And it just basically shows how well you can take hits both physically and special defensively than another Pokemon with less HP. And then there's attack, which refers to physical moves specifically. When using attack, the damage is calculated using the opposing Pokemon's defense stat rather than the special defense stat, unless the move states otherwise, because there are some special moves, but we'll get into that another time. Defense, which represents how well your Pokemon can take a physical hit from an attacking move, rather than special attacking. So having a good defense is always good against a physical attacker. Then there's special attacker, which is the opposite of a physical attacker, directly attacking the enemy's special defense stat rather than the defense stat. I believe I just called that special defense. Yes, I did. That's your special attack. I apologize. So your special attack, which is good against a special defense, rather than attack being good against a defense. Special defense, which is once again the opposite of physical defense, taking special hits rather than physical hits. So if you have a high special defense, you're best to be bringing that on a Pokemon with that's a special attacker, so then you're not taking massive damage from your poor defense because you are specially defensive. And then there's speed, and speed can become very important in a Pokemon match. Speed determines what Pokemon will attack first. Priority moves not included, that we'll get into another time. But without priority moves or any sort of special conditions, raw speed is important. for example, if Pokemon like Mega Aerodactyl has set up multiple Home Claws, which boosts your attack and stat, your attacking stat and your accuracy stat, which is not too important, but boosting the attack stat, and then being Aerodactyl, actually Mega Aerodactyl I should say, has a base speed of 150, and I believe is in the definite top 10 Pokemon who are the fastest in the game. So the majority of everything is going to be slower than it, so having priority for a Mega Aerodactyl as setup is generally a good idea. That basically means he's going to be attacking first all of the time, regardless of special conditions. So your general idea for that is to bring out your Pokemon who hopefully is faster, which there aren't many, so unfortunately probably aren't going to be many Pokemon faster than that, but if they had different Pokemon with less speed, then that's where knowing stats comes into good use. And or going into your Pokemon that is physically defensive, so you can know that you can take a hit and then get another attack off him, or get an attack off of him after he hits you, and hopefully you survive. So we will talk about all the different kinds of stats and whatnot. So when it comes to physical attacks, these are just examples of Pokemon that you could be using. There is right here Bisharp. He is physically offensive over specially offensive. As you can see, his attack stat is 125, bringing it to 314, and his special attack is only 60 and bringing it to 140. So if they bring out somebody who is specially defensive on you, Bisharp on special defense is just, you can't get out of him what you would like. So because his attack stat is so high, he's obviously going to be a physical attacker. And to tell what a move type is, because each move has its own category of special attack, physical attack, or status, which basically tells you what of your stats it's going to be using. So Dark Pulse here, you can see it right here. It shows this little circly icon. This means that it's special. And Home Claws right here, this is this circle gray with kind of looks like a yin-yang symbol. That is a status move, meaning it's not dealing physical or special damage. It's affecting status such as Paralyze, Burn, whatever, or you're boosting stats like Home Claws or any other sort of area, but it's not physical, it's not special. And then there's Sucker Punch here, which is physical attack, which is priority, but that's something different. As you can see, it's got this kind of, it looks like an animation you'd see in a comic book of somebody taking a punch. So that's a physical right there, meaning that this is generally a move that you'd probably want on a Bisharp, but you can choose generally what kind of moves that you'd want. It's not written in stone the kind of moves that you can have. So you would be looking at his moveset, and you can see all these moves right here that are usable, and these are other moves that it can learn, but they're generally not used competitively. You'd be looking down, and you'd see Dark Pulse. You'd see that that is special, and you don't really want that on him. So there's Dual Chop, Facade, sorry, I always thought it was Facade, but it's Facade, Foul Play, Frustration, all these right here are physical moves. Iron Head, Knock Off, Low Kick, Magnet Rise. Oh, Magnet Rise is status, my bad. So yeah, so that's a pretty good idea of how you're going to be using a Bisharp, or any Pokemon with a high attack stat. Excuse me. I don't know why I'm so burpy, I had some orange juice. And then we have Alakazam here, who's, if you look at his stats, he is a special attacker, and he is fast. His HP kind of sucks, so generally means you don't want to be taking a hit, considering his defense is 45. So special attack is something that you want to lead with him on. You don't want to be using physical attacks, because he is not going to be doing much damage. So you could be using Energy Ball here, Dazzling Gleam, Focus Blast, Grass Knot. And so being such high special attack, you're going to be doing massive amounts of damage. That's even before Mega Evolution. And as long as he brings in somebody who's not specially defensive, you could be doing so much damage to him, because this special attack stat is being rated upon the opposing enemy's special defense. So if he's not specially defensive, then you are in a good situation. We have Blissey here, who has the most HP in the entire game, being 255. So showing here he has a maximum of 651, regardless of EVs. We'll get into that after I run through all these different Pokemon here. 651, and his special defense is 135, meaning that you can take a Stab Psychic attack from an a Mega Alakazam, probably. I could be wrong, I could run damage calculators on that, but Blissey is very, very, very tanky on the physical or special defensive side, so Blissey is run pretty often. And actually, something I could just go over this now. Stab basically means a move that is the same type as the Pokemon that you were using. So if you have an Alakazam using a Psychic attack, because he's Psychic typing, he will get a boost in his damage that he can do because it is the same type as him. And Stab refers to same type attack bonus. So if you hear somebody say, "Oh, it's Stab," blah 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 blah, then that means basically he's using a move that's the same type. It's going to get a boost. And that boost is actually 1.5, so if a damage is 100 and you get a stab bonus, and the base power of that move is generally going to be 150, which is a good idea to always have stab coverage on all your Pokemon. So Blissey here is our special defensive HP wall, which is just take anything, as long as it's not physically defensive like Machamp. Or physically offensive. And then we have Aggron, who is physically defensive, which is the opposite of a Chansey, except his HP kind of sucks, but you can basically take any sort of physical hit that you can think of, as long as it is not super effective times 4, which I guess, unfortunately for Aggron, with his shitty typing, is going to be ground type, fighting type, I believe that's it. But so you don't want to be taking a dual chop the dragon type, a dynamic punch from a no-guard Machamp. But yeah, his physical defense is really good, but also his his attack is really good. So one thing about Pokemon that are really defensive is that they unfortunately make up for that by having pretty poor offensive stats for special attack or physical attack. So Aggron does have a high physical attack, so if you could bring it in on somebody that would force him to switch out, then you could get a nice Stone Edge, Iron Head, Heavy Slam off. So as you can see, he is physically defensive. And then we have a Cacturn, who, right here, I don't know why I'm pointing at the screen, you can't see the screen, you should be looking at my mouse. His attack and his special attack, they are the same. So basically you can choose with Cacturn what kind of attacker you would like him to be, because as you can see here, both his attack and his special attack are the same, so both of these final stats are the same as well, regardless of Nature's and EVs. As you can see, they're empty. So you can make him a special attacker, you can make him a physical attacker, or you can make him a mixed attacker, so you can split training into either stat, so that way you know, you can do damage on both sides, which could be good, because then your opponent's going to come in and see a Cacturn, which I believe are mostly physically defensive, but you can always also be a specially offensive, and then catch him off guard, and then hit an Aggron with an energy ball, which I'm pretty sure would kill it, unless it's got Assault Vest or something. That's items, that's a different video, so subscribe. And then speed, yes, we've gone over the speed, so Aerodactyl speed. Super fast, you want to go first, that is generally the idea. Okay, now we're getting into a more mathematical side of Pokemon, and this is EVs and IVs. IVs they stand for individual values. Basically, a Pokemon has a rating of up to 0 to 31 of a stat as it's born. So IVs are determined, I think, after the egg hatches. I'm not exactly certain. So IVs can be passed on through breeding. Breeding is a whole other section, so we're not going to go over that. But basically, if you can get a Pokemon with perfect IVs, as you can see, HP, I think you can only have 5 max IVs. But see, if you have 0 IVs in your attack, his attack is only 280. But then if you have 31 IVs, his attack is 314, and those 31 points do make a difference. So when you're level 100, I think all of these numbers, that 31 basically reflects to 1 stat point, which is very important. So let's try turning him down to 50, and I just want to check this out real quick. Back to his stats. Why can I? Oh, team. Oh, here we go. Okay. What are his stats? 159. So we put this down to 0. 100. Okay, so no. So I guess technically it'd be 2 stats equal 1 stat point at level 50, which is important to know. So that's IVs, individual values. That's so much math into that. There's so much technique when it comes to getting perfect IVs, and it does matter a lot. If you're entering a tournament, you're definitely going to want a Pokemon with maximum IVs, because those 31 points do make a difference. And then there are EVs. I'm just going to bring Bisharp back here up to level 100, just so he's the same as everybody else. EVs stand for effort values. Basically, a Pokemon has the ability of having, it says right here, 510 technically, but 508 usable effort value points. If you get 4 effort value points in one stat, that reflects to 1 extra attack here on his base attack stat, which I don't think it'll change the numbers, so let's put 4. No, it won't, but it will increase the stat itself right here. But the rules is you can only have 252 in 1 stat alone, meaning you can only max out 2 stats and then get 4 extra points onto 1 extra stat, which is generally only going to make 1 point of a difference. But that 1 point does make a difference in the long run. So basically, the idea is each Pokemon. Oh, I should run into how to EV train. Each Pokemon that you kill, any Pokemon that gets experience from that battle using XP share or just being in battle, will get a certain amount of EV points depending on the type of Pokemon. So I think Machop will give you 1 EV point in attack for every one you KO. So there are other items and stuff like that, which we could get into, or Pokerus, which increase how many EV points that you get from battling these Pokemon. So if you get a Machop and you have Pokerus and you have a Power Bracelet on, I think that increases attack, then you can get up to 10 stat points or 10 EV points from that one Machop. So battling Horde battles are the best because then you can get up to 50 EV points per one battle, including anybody that you XP share with and also have those items. So it's a really good quick way to EV train, but EVs make a huge difference. So let's put all 252 into Bisharp's attack here. His attack stat increases from 314 to 383, which is just massive. There are more powerful Pokemon out there, but that is a really good attack stat. And then you can put his other 252 stats into... He's not very fast, so investing into speed may or may not be inviable. You can look at separate tiers and stuff, tiers being overused, underused, those terms you're going to hear. That is a set of rules. We're going to get into that in another video. So if you know that Pokemon in the tier that you're fighting are really only going to be bringing it up to 239 may or may not make a difference depending on the Pokemon that you run into. So you could also put that into speed, 252 into speed, and make his HP bring up to 334, so then you can take a hit, and then you can also keep dishing damage out. Or you can split them into their defenses. You could really do whatever you want with EV trains. It's up to you what you would like to do with your Pokemon stats in EVs. So Bisharp, you're obviously going to want to put them into his attack. Alakazam, you're going to want to put them into his special attack. Aerodactyl, you can put into either his attack or his speed, or I guess you'd want him into both because you can have 2 max out stats, because you want Aerodactyl to be doing damage fast as possible. So Blissey, yeah, you cannot put EVs into, or actually no, I'm lying. You can put EVs into HP. I'm thinking of something else. So you'd want to be putting that into his HP and into his special defense, and then 4 into his special attack. So then, see if we go 252, 252, and then 4. Then all of a sudden his HP goes from, what was it? I think it was 618 or 650, all the way up to 714, which is ridiculous, and special defense up to 405. So hopefully I explained that properly. Yeah, each Pokemon gives you a certain amount of EVs each time that you kill it, and basically you want to pile up these EVs by having specific battles in order to max that out. So in older generation games, 5th generation and below, I believe, you could have up to 255, which kind of threw it off, so a lot of people had to, sit there and do the math to make sure they get exactly 252. So then those last 6, which only 4 are important, because 4 of them equal 1 stat point, those extra 2 do nothing. So they can get that extra 4 into 1 stat. Otherwise, it's 1 EV point that's wasted, or 1 stat point. 4 EV points, 1 stat point, which can go a long way in the end. Yeah, I believe that's a pretty good comprehensive view over EVs. I can make an EV trading guide if you'd like. Let me know, because EV trading is very important. And then we also have natures. Pokemon have a chance of having a random nature when caught or bred. Natures boost 1 stat and take away another by 10%. I believe it's 10%. So having a nature that boosts the stat you need and decreases the stat you don't need is always optimal. So for back to Bisharp, for example, I give him an adamant nature because it increases his attack and it lowers his special attack, because I'm not going to be using special attack on this Bisharp. It's a good idea to do, and you don't want to be taken away from something like special defense or defense, because there's always the chance that you can survive a hit, and that minusing, taking away 10% from a stat does go a long way. So putting it on his speed or any other stat is really not a good idea. So a lot of the time you're reducing from the certain kind of physical attacks you're going to be using, or special attacks. So Bisharp, he's going to be positive attack and a negative special attack, and see that negative special attack, it's on 156, bring it down to 140 just for minusing. But then if we minused off of his attack, it would come down to 314 from his EV train, 349. So natures are important. So yeah, we give him the adamant nature, and that boosts his attack, lowers his special attack. Alakazam, you want to give him the opposite, lowering his attack, increasing his special attack. I actually put that in. Oh, I'm still on Bisharp. Alakazam is going to be the opposite, which would give him a modest nature, boosting his special attack, bringing it up to 336 from 306. So 306 is his base stat, plus nature, plus EVs. It comes up 99 points, and those points do go an insane amount of ways. And Alakazam is fast, and he is frail. So if you're going to be putting an EV spread on your Alakazam, you'd probably want to be going into his speed. So let's minus his attack, and then the last 4, probably special defense, because it's probably the best stat that he's got otherwise. So this is generally a good EV spread for an Alakazam or Mega Alakazam. A modest nature, 252 into his special attack, 252 into his speed, and 4 into his special defense. So like I said, you only get 510 EV points, but I like to say 508 because those last 2, they don't do anything. And in later natures, actually, I cut myself off. How I said you can have up to 255, now it's 252. It's got that limit on it, so you can just keep on going without having to do the math, and know that once it's maxed out, his attack is not going to pool over and make you waste those last 4 points. You can EV train using the Pokemon battling, like I was saying, or you can EV train using the Super Secret Training, which is in Pokemon X and Y and Pokemon Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire, which is a little more tedious and takes quite a bit longer. But it could be good, I guess, for the last 4 points if you just don't want to go look for some random Pokemon. Or if you really like the games, then cool, have fun with that. And what else did I miss on EVs? Or something else I wanted to cover? How to get the points, what the points do, power boosting items. Oh yeah, resetting the EV points. EV points, they're not born with them. You can change them anytime you want using a reset bag from X and Y or S by punching the punching bag in there until you eventually get a reset bag, and then you can reset all of their EVs, and then they'd be back down here to 0, and then even though it's level 95, you can put more EVs on top of it and then redo his EV set if you decide you're not happy with what he has. And it's useful because sometimes you accidentally give yourself bad EVs, which always sucks, but resetting is a very good thing to do if you mess it up anyways. Reset bag, and I believe also once you're level 100, the EVs, they do matter, and even if you haven't leveled up. So say you're level 100 and you EV train, you're obviously not going to grow level and you're not going to see your stats boost up. But if you get to 252 in his attack, not his attack, but his special attack, then as you can see, without having to grow level, you would notice your stats increase to 63. So EV training is very important when it comes to competitive battling. You always want to keep an eye on the EV points that you have on each Pokemon. You want to keep an eye on the stats. It's important to keep an eye on the natures. There's a lot to it when it comes to competitive battling, and this is only putting your toes in the water. There is so much more to it. So much strategy, so much just takes so much practice, takes a lot of thought. But hopefully, I hope that my guide here gave you a good overview onto what stats, natures, and EVs and IVs are important for and how they can help you and how to gain them. So let me know in the comment section below. If you thought that I messed up one section of it, or if I left something out, leave a comment and I can hopefully bring up a second video just correcting my mistake, or another video explaining something else I might have forgotten. And if not, then just leave a like button. Like rating. Like ratings are always awesome, as opposed to dislikes. Hopefully you liked it, and hopefully if this guide helped you, then subscribe and you can see more of this kind of content, as well as live Pokemon Wi-Fi battles and lots of other stuff that I'm planning on bringing out more than often because I have the time. So yeah, I hope my guide helped you, and let me bring up my screen recorder here so I can end this video. And yeah, please subscribe. Peace trout.